Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. Today we're going to be continuing on with Bryan's favorites, which is a week of bands that I've enjoyed over the past year and kind of taken another look at them in a sort of celebration of having done this for a year. So, all of the bands that we've checked out so far this week is stuff that just I really enjoyed their first outing. I want to see what's coming up next. This band is no different. We have Ephel Duath. And what I remember from their first reaction was just a lot of energy, sort of like a punk rock hardcore feel mixed with some jazzy elements. Highly syncopated rhythms, especially in the bass and the drums, and just like an overall kind of jazzy guitar feel. Like there were a couple of segments that just kind of were jazzier than the punkier sections of the rest of that song. And I'm really looking for that same thing to be here. That really interesting marriage that seared this band's name into my head. And that's that specific sound of punk rock and bebop, punk rock and jazz fusion, something in that area. I'm looking for more of that easily. So yeah, let's see what Ephel Duath is bringing to the table today. I believe this comes off of the same album as Ruins, The Painter's Palette. The title of the song is The Passage, and the subtitle is Pearl Gray. And if I remember right, Ruins had a color related to it too, which makes sense for the Painter's Palette. All right, we're just going to get going. I'm interested in what's going on, what these guys are going to bring to the table. Ooh. Yeah, see that? There's that heavy punk stuff right there. Maybe more hardcore, I guess, would be more accurate. There is so much I'm loving this. I might not look like it, but I am. Ooh, that hi-hat rhythm. And the way that's going across with the cross stick and the bass. That's that high intensity stuff I'm talking about, marrying that with some of the more jazzier elements going on. Ooh, a little bit of blues in that guitar solo. Really interesting layers in the rhythms between the layers. Dissonance in the vocal harmonies. Keep the vocal intensely, cut out the band. That's interesting. Nice little bass run there. Oh man. Nice half valve technique going on in there to give it that squealing. He did that the first time too. I just didn't have the mental capacity to comment on it then. Oh man. Please don't. Please don't make that it. Oh man, I could listen to that for days, hours. So that's a wild ride. Where do I even begin talking about this one? Uh, let's go from the start. Let's just kind of walk through the timeline of what we listened to. So at the beginning we had that really cool bass line. It showed up a couple of times as a way to introduce sections. And it's a really accented, heavily syncopated do 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 do, and it's just got like this bouncy perkiness to it, even though it has a really dark, warm tone, and it's this interesting clash there between the darkness of the bass and the poppiness of the rhythm, and the way that the notes are being cut short and kind of you have your cut short releases and then your harsh attacks on the next one, getting this really like bouncy syncopation going on. So we get like 2 seconds of that, 4 seconds of that. I don't remember how many times it looped, but then bam, just punched right in your face with this explosion of sound. I think that's the only way you can say it. We got it must have been, a heavy guitar chord, cymbals and drums, just like all four limbs hitting something. um, and then somebody coming in and squealing with the trumpet. And I say squealing, and I mean it. This dude is using all of the techniques to get these slides and squeakiness in the trumpet. And a lot of that I'm going to assume as a trumpet player. This is one of the few times my expertise comes into play here on this channel as far as a musician goes. A lot of that's done with half valve. You have your three valves on the trumpet, right? And normally you would push all the way down. So, like, you would push your valves all the way down. And what it does is it creates new airways. The trumpet has so many like little tubing, and what those do is they have holes in them and they redirect the air through all the tubes, and the longer they're in there, the more they bounce around. They come out with different sounds, different tones on the other ends. um, but what happens when, say, instead of pushing all the way down, you only push halfway, is that some of the airflow is being redirected and some of it's not, and it's kind of muting some of the air because it's restraining how much is being pushed through, and it gets this like tight squealy sound, right? It's a little muted. It requires more air pressure to get the same volume, but if you just kind of like swiggle around staying in that half area, you're going to get those slides and squeaks, right? And it's just really weird to, because we used to do it just to mess around, right? Especially if like you put your trumpet right into, especially a carpet floor, right, and you completely cover the exit bell, and then you half on all three of them, and then you just blow and you slowly pull it up, and it sounds like an elephant, right? We used to just do this for fun, right? Or if we were just messing around, we just like just to have fun. Nobody ever put it in a song. And the first time I think I've heard it used musically, well, no, I take that back because I have heard some experimental stuff, um, where like the sheet music is like sound like an elephant here, and it has like a picture of an elephant rather than notes. So, I mean, I have heard it in more experimental ideas, and I'm going to say that this is an experimental song. I'm not going to say that it's not. There's a lot of elements in here that are just highly unusual as far as composition goes. A lot of the rules of composition are just kind of chucked out the window on this song. But it's usually used in less coherent experimental. A lot of this song is still understandable. There is a core string pulling you from the beginning to end, and it's comprehensible as a piece. So I think that's really the interesting part for me is that I'm hearing it in a context of, for lack of better words, an actual song. I don't want to put off. I'm not putting down any experimental tracks that have utilized this in less musical ways, but I think that's the best way that I kind of have the vocabulary to say that this is a more traditional song with this playing style in it. And it's not even just used occasionally to kind of add flourish to a line. It kind of is the main concept in that first time the trumpet comes out. So, yeah, that part just it broke my brain. Like I said, I didn't even comment on it. As a trumpet player, I had nothing to say about the trumpet part until the second time it came in just because I was flabbergasted. I was rendered speechless by this unique trumpet performance in an already chaotic song. Chaos, man. This whole song is just chaos. Um, and then after that, I think we hit I would say, the most traditional aspect of the song, which was the verse, maybe is what we could call it. The dude is yelling, screaming. We just got bass, guitar, drum just doing their things, dropping some hardcore, punky kind of energetic, high energy riffing and patterns. Um, and then the bass part comes in. I think again with that do 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 do, and introduces us into the chorus, which I think is one of the more interest. Every part of the song is interesting, right? It's definitely something that intrigues me. If I had to point to a single part of the song as the one that I really want to focus in on and hear what's going on, I think is going to be the chorus because there is a ton happening. We got a bass and a guitar just doing their own thing, right? And none of that really feels like it has much to do with the drums, which the drums are doing. It's fairly standard. And it's got like that kind of jazzy beat to it rhythmically. But what part of the drum kit are being hit for each note, I think is a little unusual. There's elements of that rhythm that are very familiar to me, but the way they're being presented is jarring, at least to me. And I think I'd have to go back. There's so much to listen to. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I have to go back and really listen to the drums in that section and hear what's being hit for what note. And because like I said, I think that's the part that's really jarring for me there. It's not so much the rhythm. The rhythm is fairly rote. It's how the rhythm is being applied within the drum kit. And then, like I said, just to top it off, nothing else is really working within that drum rhythm. Everybody else is doing their own thing rhythmically. There's some weird harmonic things going on. Not harmonic, but harmony. Yeah, harmonic. I don't know. Harmonic can be like confused with harmonics, which is like overtones and stuff. So we're gonna go with harmonies. There's some interesting harmony things going on between the bass and the guitar, but they're also just kind of doing their own thing. The bass is doing a lot of walking. The guitar is just, I don't know. The guitar is doing a wild thing as far as a lead line goes. And then we hear some cool stuff. So the singer is so far has just screamed, all right? And then he brings it back and he has this nice, warm, kind of like back of the throat singing, wide, lower tone, right? I mean, he was screaming way up here, and now he's kind of brought it down. Do 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 do, something along those lines. Just lower pitch though. But behind that, a little quiet. I don't know how easily it can be picked up, especially for first time listen. There's more screaming going on. There's a layer of screaming behind those cleans. Um, and it's just, there's a lot of energy there, even without the chaos that we saw in the verse. And it's really cool to see them maintain that energy, but kind of ditch the chaos for a little bit more streamlined um, ideas. Like I said, a lot of the lines that are going on don't complement each other super well. There's still some chaos going on, but it's not that cacophony that's going on at the beginning. There's a lot more nuanced insanity going on in the chorus. Um, After that, my understanding of the song turns into a little bit of a blur as far as what came when, but we entered into like a jazz solo section. um, and we had some really interesting guitar solos, some cool bass lines. I mentioned that I think it was a guitar line was had like a super bluesy feel to it. Like a lot of rock is based on blues, but it kind of removes the nuance of the blues scale and kind of takes the the core identity. You get the hard points of the blues scale without the nuances of the blues scale, and it doesn't sound super bluesy. Blues evolved into rock, rock evolved into metal. There's a clear lineage there, but even when you play metal music acoustically, it doesn't sound like blues. There is a gap there. Something was lost in translation, and they reapplied it. There's some blues stuff going on in those guitar lines, and it's just really cool to hear them. Um, but yeah, so we have some really interesting things going on in the solo section, and it brings it all down. There's still energy, especially in the drum part. It isn't entirely slow, but a lot of it's been brought down. We've reached new dynamics in speed, dynamics in volume. We've really reined everything in and just kind of cooled down for a little bit, which we need because that first 2 minutes or whatever was just uh blistering speed that came out of nowhere to begin with. We didn't have a ramp up into that. It was just bam. Last beat we had just the bass. This beat we got everything and we're yelling at you and with a trumpet. So it's a nice point to just kind of cool down, chill out, figure out what you just listened to, and they're still not completely letting you off the hook though, because like I said, there's some really interesting things going on in the solo work there. And then after that, I think everything after that is rehash. We see another verse and another chorus. If I remember right, there's another trumpet section. Um, and I want to say that one had some sections that were full valve presses. Kind of got rid of the squealiness and kind of threw some clean notes out in there. But uh, honestly, I'd be lying if I said I was 100% certain about it. I just kind of remember hearing that. There's just so much to listen to in this song, though. Something I want to talk about, and it completely threw me off. And I was kind of digging it towards the end, though. In the chorus, you got that vocal line, the da 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 da. Um, yeah. So we're in like a 3/4. I think you get da 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 da, and they're kind of weighted to make sort of like 3-beat phrases. But the fourth time is just like lots of bass kick, lots of bass hits, maybe even some power chords, and we just get these eighth notes. Digga 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 digga. I can't even do it. Like, oh man, my double tonguing is weak these days. Um, but yeah, like it comes out of nowhere, massive volume spike. Um, and even going into it, there's a really cool guitar slide. So it comes out of nowhere. It's only there for a bar, and then we bring it back down to that heavily. um, energetic drum part, and then the bass and guitar part that are kind of doing their own things. The vocalist is back down. We do that for 3 bars, and that fourth bar, it's just that brutal quick attack again. It comes out of nowhere, surprised me, and like I said, it started to grow on me though at the end. I really enjoy how they kind of have that burst of intensity. Even in the quiet sections, you have no guarantee that that's where you're sticking with, and I think that also kind of um, amplifies the sort of protection that we feel, not protection, but serenity, calmness that we feel in the jazzier solo section, because we're kind of letting our guards down. After the first 4, 6, 8 bars, we're like, okay, we actually get a chance to relax now. It's not, false comfort where they're going to, attack us again in a few bars. But then when it does come back in, it's there, it's ready to go, it's in your face again. And I don't know, it's just the way that they play with dynamics is really interesting. Um, I think the only other part I mentioned that was interesting was closer to the end. It might have been one of the choruses where they introduced a second clean vocal and it was dissonant. It was not entirely harmonious. It was maybe, if it was in the key, it was one of the tension building notes rather than a nice resolution note or a complementary note. Um, and it just adds a lot of tension to the two notes that are playing, and there's a little bit of crunchiness and distortion going on, and it was a really interesting choice, but given everything else with the song, it just fits so well. I'm not going to say I'm 100% keen on it. It sounds grating, but I understand its context in the track, and it fits. If it wouldn't have sounded the same if they went with a nice harmony there. I think that's about all I can say on a first time listen. I think I covered a lot of it, which is interesting. But I also know that I missed a lot. There's so much going on here, so much cool stuff. Um, and it makes me want to go back and check out Ruins again and kind of see how that compares to this. I do not remember a trumpet in Ruins. I don't. Maybe it was there. Maybe it was. I don't know. I don't remember it. That really struck me as I was not expecting that at all. I remembered sort of the jazzy guitar work and sort of marrying that with the hardcore. I don't remember an actual trumpet being played. Um, but yeah, I love a lot of what's going on here. It's just a really interesting, fresh combination to me, and I would love to hear more of it. I think, what is this one called? Painter's Palette. This might be going on my short list because I need to pick this up soon. And oh, actually, we turned over a new month, didn't we? Yes, 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 yes. I think Native Construct is going to be part of this month's poll, but oh man, if I could find a good deal on Painter's Palette, I might have to include it just because I am very intrigued at this point. That was just. I think I enjoyed this a lot more than Ruins, too. I might have to go back and re listen to Ruins or rewatch that reaction video. Kind of weird watching myself react to something. But sometimes it helps to remind me what my, you know, to gauge how I was on that first listen. Because we've gone over this before where I've said that, coming into a first listen, sometimes I'm not in the right headspace or I'm expecting the wrong thing or it just doesn't strike me on the first listen. And maybe subsequent listens, I can be in the right headspace. I can pick up on some of that nuance. I can meet it on its own terms better. There's several reasons why I might enjoy it more on a second listen or a third listen. So even though it's really weird for me to sit back and watch myself react, I do occasionally to kind of get back into that headspace and see where I was at the first time I listened to it and kind of compare that to where I am now. So, yeah, I think I'm going to close this one out here. Like I said, I touched on a lot more than I would expect given how dense the song is, but I also know that I barely scraped the surface as well. So, yeah, I gave you my opinion though. This is where you guys get to give me yours. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of Ephel Duath The Passage, Pearl Gray in the Painter's Palette. And let me know how this lines up to the rest of the album. Is that trumpet more prevalent? I guess that's really the only thing, because that jazzy punk hardcore thing showed up in the Ruins too. So this is kind of their pocket, what they're good at doing. That trumpet, though, how often does that trumpet show up? If you've listened to the whole Painter's Palette, let me know about that trumpet so I can kind of be ready for that. And also, I don't want to expect it in every song and end up being disappointed by the album because this was the only one it was in. I don't want to do that, especially since I love this so much. All right. After you're done dropping a comment, if you'd like, you can move up the screen a little bit, head up to the description box, and check out any of the links adjacent to the channel. We have links for Patreon, for blocked videos, for my Twitter account. If any of those things sound interesting to you, hit them up, see what's going on. There's also a like, a subscribe, and a bell button. If you could hit all three, it helps out the channel immensely, and also helps out you if you're interested in getting updates about when I put stuff out. All right, that wraps this one up. I'll be back tomorrow with the finale to Bryan's favorites with my personal pick from this week's poll. A lot of P words going on there. We got some pretty cool alliteration. My pick from the poll. My personal pick from the poll. All right, so that'll be interesting. And then we got the weekend, which will be special selection. And the next week is special selection week. And we will finish out the premium special selection list. Everybody who has specifically donated to the channel to get a request will have had their request fulfilled. I will have, actually not all of them. Some people have donated for the regular list. It will take a while to get to them. Unfortunately, there's still 70 requests on the regular list. So, yeah, it might take a little bit to get to them. But having these weeks, the first week of every month dedicated to it, speeding the process up. And like I've said before, once we get to the end of that list, we'll reopen Patreon picks. Nope, that's what it used to be called. We will reopen special selection. And there will probably only be one tier, and we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, I can keep up with the influx of the incoming requests, and it won't be something I'm trying to catch up on. It'll be something I kind of keep up with, which will be fun. All right, so that ends this one. You guys keep being safe out there. Keep being awesome, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.